We're back again with Mr. Pedro. Hey, bro, how's it going?
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Pretty good, pretty good.
all right. So we're back for another martial arts discussion. This time, I was thinking, why don't we talk about what probably everyone wants to know? Because between you and I, we've been to a lot of different schools. We've tried a lot of different styles, and we both like to just research. Period. So with all that, what are some of the most lethal, most dangerous styles that you've seen? And not just styles, people too. You know.
Hmm.
So how about that? What do you think? What are some of your opinions about that? So let's just start somewhere and we'll work from there.
Well, right off the bat, Master Ken's Ameridote is
Oh,
probably the most lethal.
that's almost unfair. So we'll just put that one to the side and not even count that one.
Yeah, so, man, most lethal. I think a lot of the combatives styles I see out there um, tend to get straight to the point and execute effective techniques that they can be lethal, like urban combatives is one.
Okay, okay.
Another one is I think it's called Combatives by Kelly McCann.
Hmm.
I like a lot of their stuff. It's just kind of hard hitting, fast, quick to get to the point techniques.
We kind of need to specify what combatives actually means, and I know that by combatives a lot of times this is very modern, so they're not
Mm-hmm.
wearing like the kimono,
Mm-hmm.
or a traditional outfit, and if they use weapons and stuff, we're talking about like modern stuff like pepper spray, tactical knives, flashlights, those kinds of things, not ancient weapons like nunchucks and spears and stuff, right?
Exactly. So with a lot of the combatives, um, a lot of them originated from the old World War II hand-to-hand combat systems. William E. Fairbairn, E.A. Sykes, Rex Applegate.
Yes,
A lot of their techniques were real simple: chops to the throat, palm strikes with fingers into the eyes,
yes,
uh, knees to the groin, just brutal stuff. Get the guy to the ground, bash his head in with a helmet or a rifle or some kind of bludgeon uh, weapon. And that tradition has continued on into the modern day.
yes,
Those techniques are expanded upon, and sometimes there's additions to, like maybe some dirty boxing or maybe some grappling, stand-up grappling type stuff.
right.
So um, I like a lot of that. I like a lot of modern combatives
Okay,
type approach and styles.
so this is like you said, it's pretty much origins is military style
Hmm.
and taught to a lot of military and police officers and also civilians
Exactly.
for urban self-defense. Now, compare this to something like Krav. Would you consider Krav combatives?
Yeah, it's in the realm
Yes.
of combatives. Krav is almost like an interesting link between regular martial arts and combatives. I would say
Okay.
it's somewhere in the middle
Okay.
because they do have a lot of the effective, hard hitting techniques, but they also have like the kickboxing element, a little bit of the ground grappling element. Um, I don't want to say like sport,
Right.
but well, I mean, I guess you can kind of say sport-ish since it's boxing and kickboxing,
Right.
but still effective.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, actually, Krav, I would put it up there. They have a lot of good techniques that are pretty lethal.
Right.
Can
Right.
be pretty lethal. Looking at like a more old school martial art, I look at the Okinawan arts, the old karate. They have a Kyusho Jitsu,
Right.
the hitting the different pressure points.
Yes.
And I think they got that. It's them back to the old Chinese styles
Mm-hmm.
from White Crane and Southern Monk boxing. They certainly have a lot of like brutal stuff, going for the eyes, ringing the ears, get the guy to the ground, stomp his head in. Uh, brutal stuff.
So that's cool that you brought up the kind of the older style. Now we're actually talking about traditional styles, but I sent you a video earlier today actually, and it was a ninjutsu guy. He was one of Hatsumi Sensei's oldest students, and who's now a teacher in his own right, and now he's a pretty good age. But that guy, he was saying that the Bujinkan of back then compared to today is very different. And what he was showing, you saw the video clip, he was attacking all the what is called kyusho, which is translated as weak points on the body. So they're all like nasty, attacks to the other person. And that's all he was doing, is just one after the next.
Yeah, and I can see how that's the old school method, because the old school method was for war. And up close and personal, you don't have your sword, your tanto or whatever, gouge his eyes out, get him in this pressure point or where have you, and
Right.
Take care of the opponent quickly. I think not being in warfare tends to maybe make the style a little bit more nicer.
Yes.
Being close to those times.
Yes.
But he was doing things like the guy threw like a wide punch at him. He blocked, got into a clinching distance, and just grabbed the guy's neck.
Right.
Pinched him. And that is so visceral and primal and basic, but very effective.
Right.
And for me, I've found that sometimes I forget about that. Like, I get too lost in, like, okay, clear this trap here, hit. Whereas sometimes you just gotta just grab the guy,
Yeah.
and rip and tear, you know what I mean? Be a little bit more aggressive, more caveman-ish, but smart, know what you're doing.
Yes.
And I think that's what that older gentleman demonstrated.
And I think he was also like talking about stuff like when you do just grab the neck like this, the detail is there to where you could actually pinch certain nerves and stuff as you, so it's not just a wild grab. It actually he was comparing it to jazz. He's saying in jazz they just doing whatever feels right, but it's not just total chaos. It's someone who has studied music, has all the foundations, and then they're going with the flow. So he was kind of saying that you do have to study, and he went into stuff like how exactly do you rip the cornea with your fingernails? So the style that he was mentioning was what I said to you in kanji. It's written as bone finger, so it's all about this grabbing, and he says it all begins from there. Is what he was saying.
And that's real interesting because we are as humans made to grab.
Yeah.
But yet we focus so much on this, on the fist, but we are made to grab, and so it's funny how the old school kind of understood that, you know what I mean? Or maybe that's just.
Well, what do you think about this? In the manga Tiger Mask, right? They were talking about wrestlers that were strong enough to wrestle against like a bear, an alligator, a tiger, and of course, obviously, with the tiger or the bear, they have to muzzle the mouth and not have claws and stuff. But they were able to do it. The one animal they didn't want to, according to the manga, right, that they avoided was a gorilla because it can grab. So it's kind of like what we're talking about here. What do you think about? Do you think there's some truth to that?
Yeah, I mean, chimpanzees, gorillas, they can grab, they can tear.
Oh.
They bite.
Yes.
Real vicious attacking.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, what's a bear going to do to you? He can't bite you if he doesn't have claws. I mean, he may lie on top of you or something, but same thing with a tiger. You take away its weapons like that, the claws and mouth. It's not much they could do, I don't think. But a gorilla, what are you going to do? Bound his hands, or
Right.
make him wear boxing gloves? I mean, it wouldn't be fair, but yeah, I can see a gorilla definitely just grabbing a hold of somebody by the throat and
It's well,
ripping, or trying to break a neck or something.
the orangutan is like strong enough to take a car apart, right?
Yeah,
So if you imagine that, it's gonna rip you out your sockets and everything, dislocate you in every way. That's pretty scary. Like an alligator seems really dangerous, but if you know how to avoid its weapons, there's plenty of people wrestling alligators.
hmm exactly.
But once again, a gorilla, something that's more ape-like, that's gonna be harder to avoid its weapons, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
And then too, it might have like a clubbing motion,
Hmm.
right? Kind of like a clothesline or something.
Well, it does this to its chest, and if
Mm-hmm.
you've been to the zoo and you hear that, it sounds like it's knocking on wood. I mean, the muscles sound
Mm-hmm.
like really that hard, so it's like, dang, yeah. So maybe by us now talking about this, we're kind of going more towards is the topic here is the most dangerous style. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like in the kung fu styles, the Chinese styles, a lot of times people go, well, we're not animals, we're not built that way, but they're doing animalistic forms. But do you think part of that is like we're going back to our primal essence, we're making ourselves back into the beast that we possibly can be?
I think that's what they try to encapsulate.
Mm.
I think one style that, excuse me, has always caught my attention
Mm.
and I like is Hungar.
Hungar kung fu.
Hungar Kung Fu.
Yes.
They have the famous tiger crane form,
Mm.
uh, five animals form, butterfly palm form, different forms, but they're really known for their use of the tiger claw.
Okay.
Here. And if I remember correctly, I remember hearing that they originally were a tiger
Oh.
system
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
back in the day, and then I think some other families got involved or mixed with other systems, and it became Hungar. But I think they were originally a tiger claw system, so they're already like tearing and scratching and palm striking. Um, so they're one that I like a lot too.
So something about the claw, man, and I think we also see that in knife culture. By the way, thank you so much for this knife right here. And I
Absolutely.
mean, this is the legend has it based off of a tiger's claw, right? The
Mm-hmm.
karambit. So the karambit compared to other knives, it's not like a Bowie knife, where a Bowie knife may be more suited for a duel, but I think the strength of a karambit is that more as far as like being uh, part of your body, right?
Yeah,
It blends in better.
it does, and swinging it around, having the ring on there, it feels very natural, very
Mm-hmm.
claw-like, like you're saying. Even if you reverse it and you have the blade coming this way,
Yes.
same thing. This motion, this clawing motion,
Right.
uh, is built in, and it's yeah. It's very primal.
So
I
we're kind of
keep
going
going back to
into,
that word.
yeah, we're going into that same direction kind of thing. And so for me, some of the, like, it's not so much the style, because for every style I always hear about, like, this guy is lethal, this
Mm,
dude is lethal. It's and then of course within the style there's plenty of people that they're not. they're,
yeah.
they're not that good, but always you hear about like this one dude in that style that's dangerous. For example, the Perfect Weapon, Jeff Speakman,
hmm
right? I had heard from a buddy in college that he used to take his class, and he said that Jeff Speakman came in and he would have one fingernail, actually his thumbnail was very sharpened. Like, and one time he demonstrated to the class where he cut a piece of leather with his thumbnail. He just went like that and he cut it like a blade. So then it's like he always has a blade on him, always ready to go.
Mm.
So that's kind of like, it's kind of not human anymore in a way. Is kind of closer to the beast kind of thing, or the dudes that train their hands and make their fingers, to where it's like a weapon, right? Or even their fists. So they're not really human anymore in a way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as humans, we don't have any natural weapons. I don't think, right? Like we don't have claws and fangs, and
Like compared to wild animals.
compared to wild animals.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that we have to mimic them. We kind of go back to that.
We've domesticated ourselves over thousands of years, right?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would only be natural that we try to mimic them in some way, like with the thumb or finger conditioning, or even conditioning your body to receive blows, like the iron body type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder, that's an interesting thought. What if we did have claws or something? Wouldn't that be something?
For me, actually, carrying a knife, a blade, is that.
Yeah.
So then, because like ultimately, but then I could remove the claw. If I train my hand to become that way, then it's permanently disfigured, right?
Right.
But then if I rely on a knife, then I have to rely on it. But I could always not have it, and then I'm back to normal. So.
Yeah. So, do you think how much should we train our natural weapons, our hands or fingers?
I did a lot of shin conditioning, and I didn't do so much the rest, but I did a lot of shin conditioning. And from the different styles, you can condition everything. I mean, there are people that even condition their crotch, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it's just your own preference, and for me, I kind of feel like that was great and everything, and it changed me for sure. It psychologically too. I'm walking around with like two baseball bats that are my legs. Yeah, that's what it felt like. So, I mean, you psychologically you're kind of different.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So it must be the same thing too for the guys that do all the makiwara and
right,
got the big old knuckles and all that. Like you land that punch.
You got brass knuckles on all the 24/7, right? You got brass knuckles on. That's that's kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah, but once again, is there a limit? Is it to get to that point where your whole hand's a lethal weapon, but you can't hold a pen anymore?
Yeah, that's pretty much the
trade-off.
The trade-off, and it's like, I mean, how often are you going to have to, realistically, unless you live in a bad area or something, you need your hands to write and whatnot to type, but to that point, yeah, in my opinion, that's probably too much.
Or psychologically, what would drive a person to have to need that, other than what you're saying is environment? Other than that, why, is just a pursuit of excellence, or, just to become the most baddest, scariest dude in your area?
Probably both.
Yeah.
Like both, a little bit of macho and a little bit of I got to be the best I can be, and
I know Japan, culture-wise, we kind of have a lot of that, where we like to pursue, the excellence, the perfection kind of thing. So, maybe that's why the martial arts culture really worked well for Japanese culture too.
Right.
kind of get guys with fanatical training going into the mountains and
muscle yamas and whatnot.
right, yeah. So, yeah, maybe just yeah. So that's very old school thought. So, what do you think about? We haven't touched is the combat sports. So we touched combatives, traditional. Now, the one that we're leaving out is combat sports. I mean, there's plenty of fighters I see on UFC or whatever that I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. In every way, the size, the striking ability, the technique. I don't want to mess with those guys.
Yeah, I think in many ways, uh, given their training, their sparring, they might be some of the most people best equipped to inflict lethal uh, techniques and whatnot, just because of having that sparring experience.
Right.
Even just regular old boxing. How many people die from boxing? There's been a lot of deaths in boxing. You've seen street fights where somebody lands the cross or the hook, knock the other guy out, the other guy hits the concrete, doesn't get back up.
Yeah.
Those are lethal as well. They're sports, but they can be lethal as well. Take a good Muay Thai guy, Thai clinch, and just kneeing the other guy in the head repeatedly. Severe brain damage,
right.
Possible death.
Right.
A nice crisp elbow to the temple. The lethalness is in there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some might argue that they might be better equipped to utilize it.
Yeah.
Given the live sparring.
And if you tell those guys, hey, you could hit the guy in the throat, you could kick the guy in the balls, or here's a weapon, then how much more dangerous are they going to become, right?
Exactly.
Because they already have the physicality, they already have the mentality, a lot of those things. So.
And one of the things too, I think, is that confidence that comes with sparring.
Yeah.
And just having the courage to step forward and go in. Sometimes I think it's hard to do with maybe old school traditional martial arts type sparring, because nobody's going to sit there and let you, tiger claw them in the eyes. And
no.
So I think there's you got to get kind of creative if you do a traditional martial art with the sparring sometimes, to be able to use the techniques you train in.
Yes.
But still, not kill each other.
Right. Now, do you think that the sports people are kind of killing each other?
They can be, or they used to be, back in the old days with the gym wars.
Yes.
Especially boxers, man. Dude, a lot. If you hear the way old boxers talk, the punch drunk.
Yes.
That's from the old gym wars. That's from them. Hey, I'm from this other gym. You're from this gym. We're going to have a sparring match, 8 rounds, whatever, but they treat it like a real fight.
Right.
Or, a fighter was going to go into a regular fight, and no, they spar like it's a real fight. I think nowadays there's a little bit more caution around that.
Yeah.
People talking about CTE and brain damage, and so there's more of an effort there to...
I mean, they're shortening their own careers. They're shortening their lives. Yeah, mm-hmm. For sure.
I think about it, man. Like every time you get punched in the head, your brain rocks, and yes. I think they look at I don't know what they're called, CAT scans or what have you, where they look at their brains and they see all these little holes and black spots.
Oh man.
Yeah, just the irreversible damage that it does,
Right. Yeah, it's so tragic. Yeah, that is mm-hmm. mega tragic. So yeah, we're definitely giving them credit, and we're not arguing that their techniques are oh my goodness, and they condition themselves and the sparring. And I guarantee you, there's not a fighter that steps up into the ring or the cage or whatever thinking that this is like life and death, even though it's not.
Hmm.
They go in there. I mean, even like you've done some grappling tournaments, sumo tournaments, and stuff. It probably felt to a certain extent like life and death going up there.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
you go in there with that mentality of like, okay, I'm doing this to protect my family, my tribe, or what have you.
Yeah.
And you go and you fight hard, you know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So, that it's just the method of training, the method of the experience is a little too harsh, right?
Yeah,
A little too
yeah,
harsh. And yeah, so that's unfortunate. And with the traditional style, sometimes they don't spar enough, or sometimes they don't spar at all, right? So we see
right.
that gap. And what about the more combative side? What do you think they're lacking? And is also the sparring, or
Yeah. Again, it's hard to just say, we're gonna go 50, 60%, but our primary targets are the groin, the throat,
yeah?
the eyes. You know what I mean?
How
Like,
do you do that realistically? You can't.
not at 100%. No,
No.
no, no. So there's a lot of partner drills. Like, okay, I'm gonna punch at you. I close the distance. Boom, boom. Um, and I think there's a lot of good merit to that, good training that comes out of that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you do need a little bit of good live sparring resistance.
Right.
So I think probably the closest you can get with the combatives traditional type is to maybe have the other guy wear boxing gloves and just throw random punches at you, and then you try to apply the technique, but end it at the point where you would hurt the guy. Like maybe you close the distance, and then you clinch up or whatever, and from there you do your techniques, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that'd be one of the ways I think you could come to as close as sparring and application as possible.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I liked about, I don't know if you would consider this a combative style. For me, is sistema. And
Mm-hmm.
in order to do more realistic training type stuff, they kind of try to build you as a better partner. So what you see, a lot of people are like, oh, they're so compliant. Well, they're learning how to become better partners.
Yeah.
And then they start adding more of the striking and dispersing it with breath, that kind of stuff, because you can't just do that with someone that's just ready to attack you. They're just going to hurt you. You're just going to hurt each other. So there has to be a trust, and you build up, and that's the key right there. Is those guys, they build up to it because they understand that with fear you kind of have a reverse effect. Instead of getting better, you start getting worse because you're afraid, and
Right.
it messes up your training, kind of thing. So yeah, I kind of like that approach too. Of they focus kind of more on the partnership, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, what does it look like after a while? Like,
Well, from what I've seen, like you start getting to the point where you could start really wailing on each other, and it's not going to hurt the other guy, and the other guy knows how to deal with it, and so you can go back and forth like that with some pretty serious contact. Maybe not all out full contact, but you can hit each other pretty freaking hard, and not hurt each other. So
I know what you're talking about now. I've seen it.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely.
I remember we would like take turns, like just dropping the foot onto, like you'd lay down on the ground and dropping the foot onto the stomach. And then, of course, the instructor guy, we were like jumping on his stomach and stuff. But
Nice. That's pretty cool.
yeah. So just interesting ways, being creative to train. But so we're pretty much here at the 30-minute mark. I think this is a pretty good place to stop it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's good
Well,
talk.
thank you so much for joining me in this discussion. Oh, damn! We should have said this at the very beginning.
Hmm.
I totally forgot. My bad, dude. You are starting a YouTube channel.
That's right. I
Yes.
forgot about it too.
No, my bad. Oh man,
No, no worries.
I should have said that. Yeah, I'll be sure to put the link down below. So please check it out. Yeah, this is that's what this is supposed to be about. This is your anniversary in a way of your big launch here.
Absolutely. Got a couple of videos up on there, 3 videos. Uh, Zona, Escrima, and Combatives. Uh, Man, honestly, dude, I'm inspired by you to go on this journey and kind of just share with people my own little blend, and people can check it out, pick up some techniques, watch it. I know they'll get a kick out of it.
Awesome, awesome, dude. From the videos I've seen already, you already really, really good teacher. The way you explain the details, the way you talk is you have patience and everything. So, man, definitely check out his channel. It's only gonna grow. So in
Thank
no
you.
time, you're gonna have 5, 10 videos and keep going and going and going. So anyway, guys, please check it out. And for tonight, this is it. wmpyr over and out.
Peace. Thank you, guys.